Hello there and welcome to this quiet corner where science meets wonder and curiosity is allowed to unfold without rushing. Tonight we're stepping into one of the most extraordinary theatres of human experience, one that plays out behind closed eyelids every single night. This is the hidden world where your brain becomes an architect, quietly rewiring itself, while you drift through landscapes that exist nowhere but in the theatre of sleep. What if I told you that your dreams aren't just random movies playing in your head while you rest? What if they're actually sophisticated construction sites where your brain is actively building new highways of thought, strengthening memories, and quite literally reshaping itself? Because that's exactly what's happening every time you close your eyes and surrender to sleep. Tonight, we're going to explore something that sounds almost too remarkable to be true: how the dreams that feel so fleeting, so impossible to hold on to when you wake, are actually among the most important biological processes your brain performs. We're talking about neuroplasticity during sleep, the brain's ability to rewire, adapt, and transform itself through the very act of dreaming. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Dreams have always felt mysterious, almost magical. They're filled with impossible scenarios, people from your past showing up in places they've never been, conversations that make no sense in the morning light. How could something so seemingly chaotic be doing serious work on your brain's architecture? Well, that's where the science gets fascinating. Because what feels like chaos is actually an incredibly sophisticated system at work. Your sleeping brain isn't just randomly firing neurons while you rest. It's conducting one of the most complex remodeling projects in the known universe, rebuilding the very networks that make you who you are. Let me paint a picture for you. Right now, as you listen to this, your brain contains roughly 86 billion neurons. Each of these neurons can connect to thousands of others, creating a network so vast and intricate that it makes the entire internet look like a simple circuit board. And every night, while you sleep, this network doesn't just shut down for maintenance, it transforms. The process we're exploring is called neuroplasticity, and it's perhaps the most hopeful concept in all of neuroscience. It means your brain isn't fixed, isn't set in stone after childhood, isn't limited by whatever patterns it learned years ago. Instead, it's constantly changing, adapting, growing new connections and strengthening important pathways while letting unused ones fade away. But here's where it gets really interesting. While neuroplasticity happens during waking hours too, something special occurs during sleep. Something that doesn't happen when you're conscious and engaged with the world around you. During sleep, your brain enters a unique state where it can focus entirely on internal reorganization, free from the constant demands of processing new sensory information. And dreams, those strange vivid experiences that have puzzled humanity since we first began to wonder about consciousness, turn out to be the visible tip of an invisible iceberg of brain renovation happening beneath the surface. Recent groundbreaking research from institutions like Rice University and the University of Michigan has revealed something that challenges everything we thought we knew about what happens during sleep. Scientists have discovered that during dreams, some neurons don't just replay recent experiences, they actually anticipate future ones. Think about that for a moment. Your sleeping brain is quite literally preparing for experiences that haven't happened yet. This isn't science fiction. This is cutting-edge neuroscience that's rewriting our understanding of why we dream and what dreams actually do for us. The researchers use sophisticated recording techniques to observe individual neurons in the hippocampus, that seahorse-shaped structure deep in your brain that's crucial for memory formation. What they found was extraordinary. When animals were allowed to explore a new maze and then went to sleep, their neurons didn't just replay the paths they had taken. Some neurons fired in patterns that corresponded to routes through the maze that the animals had never actually travelled. In other words, the sleeping brain was exploring possibilities, running simulations, preparing for future navigation through spaces it had only partially experienced. But let's step back for a moment and talk about why this matters for you, right here, right now. Because this isn't just an interesting scientific curiosity. This is about understanding one of the most fundamental processes that makes learning, memory, and adaptation possible. Every skill you've ever learned, from riding a bicycle to reading these words, required neuroplasticity. Every memory you've formed, every habit you've developed, every emotional response you've refined, all of it involved your brain physically changing its structure. And a crucial part of that change happens during sleep, during dreams. Dr. David Eagleman, a neuroscientist who specializes in neuroplasticity, has been studying something he calls the defense activation theory. This theory suggests that your visual cortex, the part of your brain that processes what you see, faces a unique challenge during sleep. When your eyes are closed for hours at a time, this region risks being taken over by other sensory systems. You see, your brain operates on a kind of use it or lose it principle. If a brain region isn't receiving its usual inputs, other regions might start to colonize that territory. This actually happens in people who lose their sight. Their visual cortex gets rewired to process sound and touch, often making their remaining senses incredibly acute. But for those of us with sight, we need to keep our visual cortex active during sleep to preserve its vivid scenarios you experience during sleep function. And that's where visual dreams come in. The impossible landscapes, the faces of people, appearing in places they've never been. All of that visual activity is your brain's way of keeping the visual cortex engaged and preventing other brain regions from taking over its territory. This is neuroplasticity in action, but one that preserves existing brain. It's a conservative kind of plasticity, organization, rather than dramatically reshaping it. But that's just one piece of the puzzle. The real rewiring happens through a complex orchestra of brainwaves and neural oscillations that sweep through your sleeping brain in carefully timed patterns. These aren't random electrical storms. They're precisely choreographed events that create the conditions necessary for memories to transfer from temporary storage to permanent archives, for new neural connections to strengthen, and for unnecessary connections to be pruned away. During the deepest stages of non-REM sleep, your brain generates slow, powerful waves that synchronize activity across vast regions of the cortex. These slow waves are accompanied by brief, intense bursts of activity called sleep spindles that originate in the thalamus and spread throughout the brain. At the same time, the hippocampus produces sharp, high-frequency events called ripples. Now, I know this might sound like technical jargon, but bear with me because this is where the magic happens. These three types of brain waves, slow waves, spindles, and ripples, don't just happen randomly. They're coordinated with exquisite precision, creating windows of opportunity for your neurons to strengthen the connections that matter and let go of the ones that don't. Think of it like a city that does all its major construction work at night when traffic is light. During sleep, your brain can engage in massive infrastructure projects, building new neural highways, reinforcing important connections, and clearing away the neural equivalent of debris. But the most remarkable part of this process might be what happens during REM sleep, the stage when most vivid dreaming occurs. During REM sleep, your brain becomes almost as active as it is when you're awake, but that activity is directed inward rather than outward. This is when the most sophisticated forms of memory consolidation and neural reorganization take place. Recent research has shown that during REM sleep, your brain doesn't just strengthen all connections equally. Instead, it engages in a process of selective refinement. Some newly formed neural connections get strengthened and maintained, while others are deliberately eliminated. It's like a master sculptor, not just adding material, but carefully chiseling away everything that doesn't belong in the final masterpiece. This process of synaptic refinement during REM sleep is crucial for learning and memory. It's how your brain transforms the flood of information you encounter each day into organized, accessible knowledge. It's how skills become automatic, how experiences become wisdom, how the chaos of daily life gets woven into the coherent narrative of who you are. And here's something that will change how you think about those strange, seemingly meaningless dreams you have. The content of your dreams, those bizarre scenarios and impossible events, might actually be your brain's way of testing and strengthening neural connections in novel ways. When you dream about flying or finding yourself in your childhood home, but it looks completely different, your brain might be creating new associative pathways, linking memories and concepts in ways that wouldn't happen during normal waking experience. These strange dream scenarios could be like neural cross-training, strengthening connections between brain regions that don't usually work together. This brings us to one of the most exciting frontiers in sleep research, the discovery that the benefits of sleep-dependent neuroplasticity extend far beyond simple memory consolidation. Your dreaming brain appears to be engaged in something much more sophisticated, something that looks remarkably like problem-solving and creative insight. There's growing evidence that sleep doesn't just help you remember what you learned yesterday, it actually helps you understand it better, see new patterns, make connections you missed while awake. The phrase "sleep on it" turns out to be much more than folk wisdom. It's a recognition of your brain's remarkable ability to continue working on problems even when your conscious mind has given up. Scientists have found that people are significantly better at solving certain types of problems after a night's sleep, even when they don't consciously remember dreaming about those problems. Something happens during sleep that allows insights to emerge, patterns to become clear, solutions to crystallize. This isn't just about academic problem solving either. Sleep-dependent neuroplasticity affects everything from emotional regulation to social understanding to creative expression. The brain that wakes up in the morning isn't just a rested version of the brain that went to sleep. It's literally a different brain, one that's been rewired and optimized based on the experiences and challenges of the previous day. As we continue our journey into the science of sleep and dreams, we'll explore how this nightly renovation project affects different aspects of your mental life. We'll look at cutting-edge research that's revealing the specific mechanisms by which dreams promote learning, memory, and adaptation. We'll examine what happens when this process goes wrong and how understanding neuroplasticity during sleep might lead to new treatments for everything from depression to age-related cognitive decline. But for now, I want you to think about this remarkable fact. Every night, without any conscious effort on your part, your brain engages in one of the most sophisticated biological processes on Earth. While you drift through dreams that feel ephemeral and strange, your neurons are busy building the very foundations of tomorrow's thoughts, memories, and capabilities. The story gets even more fascinating when we look at how different types of memories get processed during sleep. Your brain doesn't treat all memories equally when it comes to this nightly renovation project. Instead, it makes surprisingly sophisticated decisions about what to keep, what to strengthen, what to modify, and what to let fade away. During the lighter stages of non-REM sleep, your brain focuses primarily on what scientists call declarative memories. These are the facts, events, and experiences you can consciously recall. The capital of France, what you had for lunch yesterday, the conversation you had with a friend last week. These memories start their journey in the hippocampus, that small but crucial structure we mentioned earlier, but they can't stay there forever. Think of the hippocampus as a temporary holding area, like the inbox of your brain's email system. It can store a lot of information quickly, but it has limited capacity and it's not built for permanent storage. During sleep, your brain begins the process of transferring these temporary memories to the vast archives of the neocortex, where they can be stored indefinitely. This transfer process is anything but simple. It's not like copying files from one folder to another on a computer. Instead, it involves a complex dialogue between the hippocampus and various regions of the cortex, with each memory being carefully integrated into existing knowledge networks. Imagine you learned something new yesterday about how plants grow. During sleep, that new information doesn't just get filed away in isolation. Instead, your brain works to connect it with everything else you know about plants, about growth, about biology in general. It looks for patterns, for contradictions, for ways this new knowledge might change or enhance your existing understanding. This is why you sometimes wake up with sudden clarity about something that confused you the day before. Your sleeping brain has been working all night to weave that new information into your existing knowledge web. And by morning, connections that weren't obvious before have become clear. But the hippocampus and cortex don't work alone in this process. The thalamus, a relay station deep in your brain, plays a crucial role by generating those sleep spindles we talked about earlier. These spindles act like traffic directors, coordinating the flow of information between different brain regions and creating windows of opportunity for memory consolidation. Recent studies have shown that people who naturally produce more sleep spindles tend to be better at learning new information and retaining it over time. Even more exciting, researchers have found ways to artificially enhance sleep spindles using gentle sounds or electrical stimulation. And these interventions can actually improve memory consolidation. It's as if they've found a way to tune up the brain's natural renovation system. Now, while your brain is busy with this massive filing and reorganization project during non-REM sleep, something completely different happens when you enter REM sleep and begin to dream vividly. This is when your brain shifts its attention to a different type of memory entirely: procedural memories. Procedural memories are the skills and habits that become automatic with practice. Riding a bicycle, typing on a keyboard, playing a musical instrument, even complex social skills like reading facial expressions or navigating conversations. These memories don't live in the same brain regions as facts and events. Instead, they're distributed across networks that include the motor cortex, the cerebellum, and the basal ganglia. During REM sleep, these skill-based memories undergo their own unique form of processing. Your brain essentially runs practice sessions, replaying the neural patterns associated with skills you're learning or trying to improve. This is why musicians often report that difficult passages they struggled with during practice sessions suddenly feel easier after a good night's sleep. But here's where things get really interesting. Your dreaming brain doesn't just replay these skills exactly as you practice them. Instead, it experiments with variations, trying out different approaches, exploring possibilities that might not have occurred to you while awake. A pianist learning a new piece might dream of playing it in different ways, with different fingerings, different rhythms, different expressions. Most of these dream variations would sound terrible if played on an actual piano, but that's not the point. The point is that your brain is exploring the space of possibilities, building flexibility and adaptability into your skill networks. This experimental quality of REM sleep might explain why it's so important for creativity and innovation. Artists, writers, scientists, and inventors throughout history have reported getting their best ideas from dreams or from the moments just after waking. It's not that dreams magically provide perfect solutions, but rather that the brain's experimental processing during REM sleep can reveal new combinations, new perspectives, new ways of approaching problems. There's another remarkable aspect of how dreams rewire your brain that we're only beginning to understand. Your sleeping brain doesn't just work on memories from the immediate past. It also seems to be constantly updating and modifying older memories, even ones from years or decades ago. Every time you recall a memory during waking hours, it becomes temporarily unstable, like a book that's been taken off the shelf and opened. During the next sleep cycle, your brain has the opportunity to edit that memory, incorporating new information, changing details, or even altering the emotional tone associated with it. This means that your memories aren't fixed records of past events. They're living, evolving narratives that get rewritten slightly every time they're accessed and then consolidated again during sleep. This process, called memory reconsolidation, might be one of the reasons why eyewitness testimony can be unreliable, why family members remember the same event differently, and why your own recollections of important life events might change subtly over time. But this flexibility of memory isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. It allows your brain to update old memories with new wisdom, to reinterpret past events in light of current knowledge, to heal from traumatic experiences by gradually changing how they're encoded and stored. Some researchers believe this memory updating process might be particularly important for emotional regulation and mental health. During sleep, your brain might be working to integrate difficult experiences, to find meaning in challenging events, to gradually reduce the emotional intensity of memories that might otherwise become overwhelming. This brings us to one of the most intriguing discoveries in recent sleep research: the finding that dreams themselves might serve as a kind of virtual reality simulator where your brain can safely practice responding to challenging or threatening situations. Think about the dreams you've had where you're being chased, where you're lost, where you're facing some kind of danger or difficulty. These dreams often feel intensely real and can wake you with your heart pounding. But what if these seemingly stressful dreams are actually serving an important function? Some scientists propose that threatening dreams allow your brain to rehearse stress responses and coping strategies in a safe environment. It's like a flight simulator for your emotional and behavioral systems. During these dreams, your brain can practice activating fight or flight responses, explore different ways of handling threats, and build resilience without any actual danger. This simulation theory of dreaming suggests that your brain is constantly preparing you for future challenges by running scenarios during sleep. The strange, often threatening nature of many dreams might reflect your brain's attempt to prepare you for a wide range of possible difficulties you might encounter while awake. Supporting this idea is research showing that people who experience more threatening dreams tend to show better emotional regulation and stress resilience during waking hours. It's as if the practice sessions during sleep are building real-world coping skills. But dreams don't just prepare you for challenges, they also seem to play a role in social and emotional learning. Dreams often feature complex social scenarios, interactions with other people, relationship dynamics, and emotional situations. During these social dreams, your brain might be processing and integrating social information, practicing empathy, exploring different ways of relating to others. This social processing during sleep might be particularly important during periods of life when social relationships are changing or challenging. Adolescents, for example, spend more time in REM sleep than adults, possibly because their brains need extra time to process the complex social and emotional challenges of this developmental period. The social dimension of dreaming also helps explain why dreams so often feature people from your past and present mixed together in impossible combinations. Your brain isn't just randomly assembling social scenarios, it's exploring the patterns and themes that run through your relationships, looking for insights that might help you navigate future social situations more effectively. As we delve deeper into these mechanisms, we're beginning to understand that the neuroplasticity happening during sleep isn't just about individual neurons and synapses. It's about entire networks of brain regions learning to work together more effectively, developing new forms of coordination and communication. During sleep, different brain regions that might rarely interact during waking hours begin to synchronize their activity. The visual cortex might start communicating with the auditory cortex, the memory centers might sync up with the emotional centers, the logical reasoning areas might connect with the creative regions. These unusual partnerships during sleep might be one source of the insights and innovations that sometimes emerge after a good night's rest. This network-level plasticity during sleep might also explain why sleep is so crucial for recovering from brain injuries. When one region of the brain is damaged, other regions need to learn new roles and develop new connections to compensate. This rewiring process appears to be significantly enhanced during sleep, when the brain can experiment with new network configurations without the demands of conscious processing. The implications of this research extend far beyond academic curiosity. Understanding how dreams rewire the brain is leading to new approaches for enhancing learning, treating memory disorders, managing trauma, and even accelerating recovery from brain injuries. Researchers are developing techniques to enhance the natural neuroplasticity that occurs during sleep. Some are using gentle sounds timed to specific phases of sleep cycles to boost memory consolidation. Others are exploring how targeted stimulation during sleep might help people overcome phobias, break bad habits, or learn new skills more effectively. There's even research into how controlling dream content might be used therapeutically. Lucid dreaming, the ability to become aware that you're dreaming while still in the dream state, offers a unique window into the brain's nighttime renovation process. People who can lucid dream report being able to practice skills, confront fears, and explore creative ideas within their dreams. But perhaps the most important insight from all this research is how it changes our relationship with sleep itself. For too long, our culture has treated sleep as lost time, as something that gets in the way of productivity and achievement. We've developed a kind of sleep machismo, where getting by on minimal rest is seen as a badge of honor. The science of neuroplasticity during sleep reveals how misguided this attitude really is. Sleep isn't time lost, it's time invested. Every hour you spend sleeping is an hour your brain spends becoming more capable, more resilient, more creative, more wise. When you understand this, when you really grasp what's happening behind your closed eyelids each night, it transforms how you think about rest itself. But the story gets even more remarkable when we start to look at the specific molecular machinery that makes this nightly rewiring possible. Deep within your sleeping brain, there's a symphony of molecular activity that would make the most sophisticated factory seem simple by comparison. While you drift through dreams, your neurons are busy manufacturing the very building blocks of memory and learning. Proteins are being synthesized, genes are being expressed, and cellular structures are being modified in ways that will literally change how you think and remember. One of the most fascinating discoveries in recent years is how sleep triggers a massive shift in protein production within your brain cells. During waking hours, your neurons are primarily focused on immediate communication, sending signals, processing information, responding to the constant stream of sensory input. But when sleep arrives, they switch gears entirely. The same neurons that were busy talking to each other all day suddenly become focused on construction projects. They begin producing specific proteins that are essential for building and strengthening synaptic connections. It's like a construction crew that works the night shift, building new structures while the daytime workers rest. These proteins have names that sound like characters from a science fiction novel. BDNF, ARC, PSD95, GluR1. Each one plays a specific role in the brain's renovation process. BDNF, for instance, acts like a growth factor, encouraging neurons to sprout new connections and strengthen existing ones. ARC proteins help stabilize these new connections, making temporary changes permanent. What's remarkable is that this protein synthesis isn't happening randomly throughout the brain. Instead, it's targeted specifically to the synapses, the connection points between neurons, that were most active during the day. It's as if your brain keeps a detailed record of which connections were used most frequently, and then sends construction crews to reinforce exactly those pathways during sleep. This targeted approach to neural construction explains why sleep is so much more effective than simple rest for consolidating learning. Your brain isn't just randomly strengthening connections, it's selectively reinforcing the patterns that matter most, the ones that represent important skills, crucial memories, significant experiences. But the molecular story of sleep-dependent neuroplasticity goes deeper than just protein synthesis. There are intricate signaling cascades, complex genetic programs, and sophisticated cellular mechanisms that coordinate this nightly renovation project. The more we learn about these processes, the more we realize that sleep isn't just important for brain function, it's absolutely essential. Consider what happens when this molecular machinery is disrupted. People who are chronically sleep deprived don't just feel tired, they show measurable decreases in their ability to form new memories, learn new skills, and adapt to changing circumstances. Their brains literally can't manufacture the proteins needed for neuroplasticity at the same rate as well-rested individuals. This isn't just about being groggy or unfocused. This is about the fundamental capacity for growth and adaptation being compromised at the cellular level. When you skip sleep, you're not just borrowing time from rest, you're borrowing time from your brain's ability to improve itself. The timing of this molecular activity is also crucial. Different proteins are synthesized at different stages of sleep, coordinated with the various brain waves and oscillations we discussed earlier. It's like a precisely choreographed dance, where each molecular player enters the stage at exactly the right moment to contribute to the overall performance. During the deepest stages of non-REM sleep, when those powerful slow waves are sweeping across your cortex, your brain cells are busy producing proteins involved in synaptic scaling. This is a process where the overall strength of synaptic connections gets adjusted to maintain optimal balance in neural networks. Think of it as fine-tuning a massive orchestra so that no single instrument drowns out the others. Then during REM sleep, when your most vivid dreams occur, a different set of proteins takes center stage. These are the molecules involved in synaptic refinement, the process of selectively strengthening some connections while eliminating others. It's during this phase that your brain makes the most sophisticated decisions about which neural pathways to keep and which to let fade away. This brings us to one of the most counterintuitive aspects of sleep-dependent neuroplasticity. Forgetting is just as important as remembering. Your brain doesn't just strengthen important connections during sleep, it also actively weakens or eliminates connections that are no longer needed. This process of synaptic pruning might sound destructive, but it's actually essential for optimal brain function. Imagine if every neural connection formed throughout your life remained at full strength forever. Your brain would become cluttered with outdated information, irrelevant associations, and obsolete response patterns. You'd be carrying around the neural equivalent of a computer hard drive that's never been cleaned up. Instead, your sleeping brain acts like a skilled editor, not just adding new content, but also removing unnecessary material to keep the overall narrative clear and coherent. This editing process allows you to maintain relevant memories while letting go of details that no longer serve you. The selectivity of this pruning process is remarkable. Your brain doesn't randomly eliminate connections. Instead, it carefully evaluates which pathways are still relevant, which associations are still useful, which responses are still appropriate for your current life circumstances. Connections that haven't been activated recently are more likely to be weakened, while those that are frequently used are preserved and strengthened. This explains why skills you don't practice gradually fade, why memories from childhood become less detailed over time, and why old habits eventually disappear if they're not reinforced. It's not a failure of your memory system. It's an adaptive feature that keeps your brain optimized for current needs rather than cluttered with historical artifacts. But here's where the story takes another fascinating turn. Recent research has revealed that your brain doesn't just work with existing memories during sleep. It also appears to generate entirely new neural patterns, exploring possibilities that were never experienced during waking hours. Remember those studies we mentioned earlier, where researchers found neurons firing in patterns corresponding to paths through a maze that animals had never actually traveled? This phenomenon, called pre-play, suggests that your sleeping brain is essentially running simulations, exploring potential futures, preparing for experiences that haven't happened yet. Think about what this means for a moment. Your brain isn't just a passive recorder of experiences. During sleep, it becomes an active explorer, a virtual reality system that can generate and test new possibilities. It's as if you have a personal laboratory in your head where your neurons can experiment with different approaches to problems, different responses to challenges, different ways of navigating the world. This simulation capacity of the sleeping brain might explain why some of our most creative insights come during or just after sleep. When your brain is free to explore beyond the constraints of actual experience, it can discover combinations and connections that wouldn't occur during normal waking thought. Artists often describe waking up with new ideas for paintings. Writers report solving plot problems in their dreams. Scientists have famously made breakthrough discoveries through dream insights. These aren't just romantic stories about inspiration. They're examples of the brain's remarkable ability to use sleep time for creative exploration and problem solving. The simulation theory of sleep also helps explain why dreams often feel so emotionally intense even when the content is bizarre or impossible. Your brain is treating these simulated experiences as real learning opportunities, engaging the same emotional and physiological responses it would during actual events. This allows the neuroplastic changes triggered by dream experiences to be just as meaningful as those triggered by waking experiences. But perhaps the most profound implication of this research is what it tells us about the nature of consciousness itself. If your brain can generate meaningful experiences, form lasting memories, and undergo significant neuroplastic changes during sleep, what does that say about the relationship between awareness and brain function? During lucid dreams, when you become aware that you're dreaming while still in the dream state, something remarkable happens to neural connectivity. Brain imaging studies of lucid dreamers show increased communication between regions that normally don't interact much during regular REM sleep. It's as if consciousness itself acts as a kind of neural network coordinator, bringing different brain regions into more sophisticated forms of collaboration. This enhanced connectivity during lucid dreaming might represent an amplified form of the neuroplasticity that occurs during normal sleep. When you're conscious within a dream, you might have more control over the neural experimentation that's taking place, potentially directing the brain's simulation processes towards specific learning goals. Some researchers are exploring whether training people to lucid dream could enhance the natural neuroplastic benefits of sleep. Imagine being able to consciously direct your brain's nightly renovation project, choosing which skills to practice, which memories to strengthen, which problems to work on during sleep. This isn't just speculation anymore. There are already techniques being developed that allow people to influence their dream content, to practice skills within dreams, and to use the unique properties of the dreaming state for therapeutic purposes. People are learning to confront phobias in the safe space of lucid dreams, to practice public speaking without real-world consequences, to explore creative possibilities that might be too risky to attempt while awake. The therapeutic potential of understanding sleep-dependent neuroplasticity extends far beyond individual enhancement. Researchers are developing new treatments for depression, anxiety, PTSD, and other mental health conditions based on the brain's natural capacity for overnight rewiring. Depression, for instance, often involves stuck patterns of thinking and feeling, neural networks that have become locked into negative configurations. Some new therapies attempt to disrupt these patterns during sleep, when the brain is most plastic and most open to change. By carefully timing interventions with specific sleep phases, it might be possible to help depressed brains literally rewire themselves into healthier configurations. Similarly, PTSD appears to involve memories that haven't been properly processed during normal sleep cycles. The traumatic experiences remain vivid and intrusive because the brain's usual memory consolidation and emotional regulation processes were overwhelmed. New treatments are exploring how to reactivate these problematic memories during sleep in controlled ways, allowing the brain's natural healing processes to finally do their work. Even age-related cognitive decline might be partially addressable through sleep-based interventions. As we age, the quality of our sleep typically deteriorates. We spend less time in deep sleep stages, our brain waves become less synchronized, and the molecular machinery of neuroplasticity becomes less efficient. But understanding these changes opens the possibility of compensating for them. Researchers are developing techniques to enhance slow-wave sleep in older adults, to artificially synchronize brain rhythms that have become disrupted, and to support the molecular processes that enable neuroplasticity. Early results suggest that improving sleep quality in older adults can lead to measurable improvements in memory, learning, and cognitive flexibility. The implications extend beyond individual health to education and human potential. If we can understand and optimize the neuroplastic processes that occur during sleep, we might be able to dramatically enhance human learning and capability. Students could potentially learn languages faster, athletes could accelerate skill acquisition, professionals could adapt more quickly to changing demands in their fields. But with these possibilities come important questions about equality, authenticity, and human nature itself. If some people have access to sleep enhancement technologies, while others don't, could that create new forms of inequality? If we can artificially enhance the brain's natural learning processes, what happens to the value of effort, practice, and perseverance? These questions don't have easy answers, but they're becoming increasingly relevant as our understanding of sleep-dependent neuroplasticity advances. We're approaching a time when the nightly renovation of your brain might not be entirely beyond your control, when the dreams that reshape your mind might be partially programmable, when sleep itself might become a technology rather than just a biological necessity. For now, though, the most important insight from all this research might be simpler and more immediate. Every night, without any conscious effort on your part, your brain is performing one of the most sophisticated biological processes known to science. While you dream of flying through impossible landscapes or having conversations with people from your past, your neurons are quietly building the foundation for tomorrow's thoughts, memories, and capabilities. This nightly transformation isn't optional or incidental. It's fundamental to who you are and who you're becoming. The person who wakes up in the morning isn't just a rested version of the person who went to sleep. They're literally a different person with a brain that has been rewired, refined, and optimized based on the experiences and challenges of the previous day. Understanding this process changes everything about how we think about sleep, about dreams, about the relationship between rest and growth. It reveals that the hours we spend unconscious aren't lost time, but rather the most productive hours of our neural lives. When the real work of becoming who we're meant to be takes place in the quiet theatre of sleep. But what happens when this remarkable system encounters the complexities of modern life? What occurs when the delicate machinery of sleep-dependent neuroplasticity collides with the demands of a world that never truly sleeps? Because while your brain has been perfecting this nightly renovation process for millions of years, it evolved in a very different environment than the one we inhabit today. Our ancestors lived by the rhythm of the sun. When darkness fell, their brains could reliably count on hours of uninterrupted sleep, free from artificial light, electronic screens, and the constant hum of a connected world. Their neural renovation projects proceeded according to ancient schedules, guided by circadian rhythms that had been fine-tuned over countless generations. But somewhere along the way to modernity, we began to treat sleep as negotiable. We invented electric lights that could push back the darkness, created entertainment systems that could capture our attention well past natural bedtime, developed work cultures that valorized burning the midnight oil. We built a civilization that operates around the clock, and then wondered why our brains sometimes struggle to keep up. The cost of this shift is becoming increasingly clear as researchers study what happens when sleep-dependent neuroplasticity is chronically disrupted. It's not just that sleep-deprived people feel tired or struggle to concentrate, at the cellular level, their brains are literally missing opportunities for growth, adaptation, and repair that can't be made up during waking hours. Consider what happens in the brain of someone who consistently gets only 5 or 6 hours of sleep instead of the 7 to 9 hours most adults need. During those shortened nights, the slow waves that coordinate memory consolidation become fragmented. The sleep spindles that facilitate communication between brain regions occur less frequently. The REM periods where synaptic refinement takes place get compressed or eliminated entirely. Each individual night of shortened sleep might seem manageable, but the effects accumulate in ways that can be profound. Neural connections that should have been strengthened remain weak. Memories that should have been consolidated remain fragmented. Emotional experiences that should have been processed and integrated during sleep continue to feel raw and overwhelming. Over time, chronically sleep-deprived brains begin to show measurable changes in structure and function. The hippocampus, that crucial memory-forming region, actually shrinks. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive function and emotional regulation, shows decreased activity. The default mode network, which helps maintain your sense of self and processes experiences when you're not focused on the outside world, becomes less coherent. These changes aren't just temporary inconveniences that resolve with a good weekend's rest. Some of them appear to be lasting alterations in brain structure that can persist even after sleep patterns improve. It's as if the brain's renovation crews, denied adequate time to do their work night after night, eventually give up on some projects entirely. But here's what makes this particularly concerning. Many people living with chronic sleep restriction don't realize how impaired they've become. The brain adapts to operating in a degraded state, and what feels normal after weeks or months of insufficient sleep is actually a significantly compromised version of optimal function. Studies have shown that people who sleep only 6 hours a night for 2 weeks perform as poorly on cognitive tests as people who have been awake for 24 hours straight. Yet unlike the person who's been awake all night and knows they're impaired, the chronically sleep-restricted person feels relatively normal. Their brain has adjusted to functioning with reduced neuroplasticity, but that adjustment comes at a cost they may not even recognize. This hidden nature of sleep-dependent cognitive impairment has enormous implications for everything from workplace safety to academic performance to relationship quality. How many mistakes, how many missed opportunities, how many interpersonal conflicts stem from brains that haven't had adequate time for their nightly renovation projects? The modern epidemic of sleep disruption also intersects with another concerning trend: the increasing prevalence of anxiety, depression, and other mental health challenges. While the relationship between sleep and mental health is complex, there's growing evidence that disrupted neuroplasticity during sleep plays a crucial role in emotional regulation and psychological resilience. Remember that during normal sleep, your brain doesn't just process factual memories, it also works on emotional memories, gradually reducing their intensity, integrating them into your broader life narrative, and developing more adaptive ways of thinking about challenging experiences. When this emotional processing is disrupted night after night, difficult experiences can accumulate without being properly resolved. The result can be a kind of emotional backlog, where your brain becomes overwhelmed with unprocessed experiences and struggles to maintain its usual regulatory balance. This might explain why sleep problems often precede episodes of depression or anxiety, and why improving sleep quality is often an essential component of mental health treatment. But the story of sleep and neuroplasticity in the modern world isn't entirely bleak. The same scientific understanding that reveals the costs of sleep disruption also points towards solutions, interventions, and ways of optimizing the brain's nightly renovation process, even within the constraints of contemporary life. One of the most promising areas of research involves what scientists call sleep hygiene, but approached with a much deeper understanding of the neurobiological processes involved. It's not just about getting enough hours in bed. It's about creating conditions that support the specific types of brain activity that promote neuroplasticity. For instance, researchers have found that the temperature of your sleep environment affects the quality of slow-wave sleep, which is crucial for memory consolidation. Your brain actually needs to cool down slightly to enter the deepest stages of non-REM sleep. And even small increases in bedroom temperature can disrupt this process. It's a simple intervention, but one that can have measurable effects on neuroplasticity. Similarly, the timing of light exposure plays a crucial role in regulating the circadian rhythms that coordinate sleep-dependent brain processes. Bright light in the evening, particularly the blue light emitted by screens, can delay the release of melatonin and disrupt the natural progression through sleep stages. But understanding this mechanism allows for targeted interventions. Using dim, warm light in the evening, wearing blue light filtering glasses, or using apps that adjust screen color based on time of day. Even more sophisticated interventions are being developed based on our growing understanding of sleep neuroplasticity. Some researchers are experimenting with gentle auditory stimulation timed to specific phases of sleep cycles. By playing soft sounds or tones that synchronize with natural brain rhythms, they can potentially enhance the slow waves that promote memory consolidation or the sleep spindles that facilitate learning. Other studies are exploring how specific scents presented during sleep might enhance memory formation. The idea is based on research showing that odors experienced during learning can later trigger the reactivation of associated memories. By presenting these same scents during sleep, researchers might be able to selectively enhance the consolidation of specific memories or skills. There's even research into how the content of dreams might be influenced to optimize neuroplasticity. Techniques like targeted memory reactivation involve presenting subtle cues during sleep that are associated with specific learning experiences. These cues can reactivate the relevant neural networks and potentially enhance their consolidation without disrupting sleep. But perhaps the most important insight from all this research is that optimizing sleep for neuroplasticity doesn't require expensive technology or complicated interventions. Many of the most effective approaches are surprisingly simple and accessible to anyone willing to prioritize their sleep. Regular sleep schedules that align with natural circadian rhythms, creating environments conducive to deep sleep, managing stress and anxiety that can interfere with sleep quality, engaging in regular physical activity that promotes healthy sleep architecture. These fundamental approaches, informed by our understanding of sleep neuroplasticity, can have profound effects on brain function and overall well-being. The key is understanding that sleep isn't just about rest and recovery. It's about transformation, growth, and adaptation. When you approach sleep with this understanding, when you recognize that those hours of unconsciousness are actually the most neurologically productive hours of your day, it changes everything about how you prioritize and protect your sleep time. This shift in perspective becomes even more important when we consider the developmental aspects of sleep-dependent neuroplasticity. The brain's capacity for change during sleep isn't constant throughout life. It varies dramatically depending on age, with some of the most crucial periods of sleep-dependent brain development occurring during childhood and adolescence. Young brains spend significantly more time in REM sleep than adult brains, reflecting their heightened need for the kind of neural experimentation and refinement that occurs during dreaming states. This extended REM sleep supports the massive neural reorganization that takes place during development as the brain prunes unnecessary connections and strengthens the pathways that will define adult cognitive abilities. But this developmental neuroplasticity during sleep extends well beyond childhood. Recent research has revealed that the brain continues to undergo significant sleep-dependent changes throughout adolescence and into early adulthood. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive function, planning, and emotional regulation, doesn't fully mature until the mid-20s, and much of this maturation process occurs during sleep. This has profound implications for education, parenting, and youth development. The adolescent brain's need for sleep isn't just about energy restoration, it's about fundamental neural development that can't occur any other way. When teenagers are chronically sleep deprived, whether due to early school start times, social pressures, or technology use, they're not just tired. They're missing critical opportunities for brain development that may not be recoverable later. Understanding this developmental dimension of sleep neuroplasticity also reveals why sleep needs change throughout life. Older adults typically need less REM sleep than younger people, reflecting their reduced need for the kind of neural experimentation that characterizes developing brains. But they often need more deep, slow-wave sleep to support the memory consolidation processes that help maintain cognitive function as the brain ages. This age-related shift in sleep architecture isn't necessarily problematic, but it becomes concerning when older adults experience disrupted sleep due to medical conditions, medications, or environmental factors. Because their brains may have fewer opportunities for neuroplasticity than younger brains, maintaining high-quality sleep becomes even more crucial for preserving cognitive abilities and emotional well-being. The research on aging and sleep neuroplasticity is also revealing new approaches to supporting brain health throughout the lifespan. Interventions that enhance slow-wave sleep in older adults have been shown to improve memory consolidation and may help prevent or slow age-related cognitive decline. These findings suggest that optimizing sleep might be one of the most effective strategies for maintaining brain health as we age. But the implications of sleep neuroplasticity research extend beyond individual health and development. They're beginning to influence how we think about education, workplace productivity, and social policy. If we know that learning consolidation occurs primarily during sleep, shouldn't educational systems be designed to optimize this process? If we understand that creativity and problem solving are enhanced by adequate REM sleep, shouldn't workplaces prioritize sleep health rather than celebrating sleep deprivation? Some forward-thinking institutions are already beginning to implement policies based on sleep neuroplasticity research. A few universities have experimented with later start times for classes, recognizing that adolescent circadian rhythms naturally favor later bedtimes and wake times. Some companies are creating nap-friendly environments or flexible schedules that allow employees to align their work with their natural sleep patterns. These changes represent a fundamental shift in how we think about productivity and performance. Instead of trying to maximize waking hours at the expense of sleep, these approaches recognize that optimal performance depends on optimizing the brain's natural cycles of activity and rest. It's a recognition that the hours spent sleeping aren't lost time, but rather an essential investment in cognitive capability. The scientific understanding of sleep neuroplasticity is also beginning to influence therapeutic approaches to a wide range of conditions. Beyond the mental health applications we discussed earlier, researchers are exploring how sleep-based interventions might help with everything from addiction recovery to rehabilitation after brain injury. In addiction treatment, for example, there's growing recognition that disrupted sleep patterns both contribute to and result from substance abuse problems. The brain's reward systems are heavily influenced by sleep-dependent neuroplasticity, and chronic sleep disruption can make it much harder for people to break addictive patterns. Conversely, interventions that improve sleep quality can support the neural changes necessary for successful recovery. So as you drift off to sleep tonight, remember that you're not just resting, you're participating in one of the most remarkable processes in all of biology. Your brain is about to become a construction site, a laboratory, a theatre of transformation where memories crystallize, skills strengthen, and tomorrow's insights take shape in the quiet darkness. Sleep well, knowing that every dream is rewiring you into who you're meant to become.